Andor comes out in about a month. If you're looking to do a little bit of prep work for the series, if you need a little refresher on some content, or if you haven't really explored Star Wars outside of the movies and live-action shows, here's a list of stories I think would be good for you to check out before we see the first 3 episodes of Andor on September 21st. As a disclaimer, this is not meant to hint at anything. I don't know anything. There was an official Disney Plus recommended watch list for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and because it included the Satine episodes of the Clone Wars, people were wondering what that meant. This list means nothing specific for the series. I'm just giving you a list of stories I think will provide more context to the characters and themes of Andor. So let's dive in chronologically, starting with the Clone Wars Season 3, Episode 10, Heroes on Both Sides. The story is about Padme teaching Ahsoka that just because someone has different political beliefs than you, that doesn't make them automatically evil. We see that Padme has friends within the Separatist movement, and Ahsoka learns that war and political debate is never a black and white issue. That's an important lesson, but to relate it all to Andor, we know that Cassian and his family were Separatists. I don't know if that'll be brought up in the show, it could be retconned, I don't know, but reference books have told us his homeworld opposed the Republic. So we could see Cassian, a Separatist and a figurehead of the Republic, Mon Mothma, put aside their political differences to fight for the greater good. Next up, I'd recommend watching the Clone Wars Season 5 episodes 2 through 5. Those 4 episodes make up the Andor arc and first introduce the character of Saw Gerrera. It lays a lot of groundwork for the eventual rebellion against the Empire by showing Anakin Skywalker training the very soldiers that would one day fight him. But these episodes depict Saw and his sister Steela Gerrera leading an uprising against a separatist occupation of their homeworld Onderon. It also happens to follow up nicely with some character threads in Heroes on Both Sides. But the big Andor connection is, of course, Saw, who we know will return in the series. The Onderon arc will tell you a lot about his character and motivations in relation to his sister. There was actually a really nice moment in the Rogue One comic adaptation that expanded upon these episodes, and I would love to see Andor do something similar with some connective tissue back to the Clone Wars series. Next up, let's talk about Revenge of the Sith. I assume you've seen the movie if you're watching this video, but there are some deleted scenes I definitely think are worth checking out. 4 scenes establish Palpatine and his continuing quest to grab more power away from the Galactic Senate. To combat this, several senators form the Delegation of 2000, formally requesting the Chancellor give up his emergency powers. Bail Organa, Padme Amidala, and Mon Mothma are 3 of those senators. This was the first time Genevieve O'Reilly got to play the character, and that alone makes them worth watching, but I think they also do a good job of, again, sowing some of the seeds of the eventual Rebel Alliance, and might be a good suggestion of the tone we might see in Andor. Politicians meeting behind closed doors, keeping secrets from their closest friends and even family. Unfortunately, only 2 of the deleted scenes are on Disney Plus, but you can find them all on YouTube or on the physical releases of the film. Next up is The Bad Batch. There are a few episodes that help show the Empire's takeover of the galaxy and how it affects its actual citizens. The primary episode I would recommend watching is Episode 10, Common Ground, because it is yet another story that follows up on the locations and themes from Heroes on Both Sides. We see how the Empire treats former separatists that have now fallen under their control, and we see former soldiers for the Republic learning to put aside the differences they had with old enemies so they can fight a new enemy together. But if you want even more Bad Batch recommendations, the series premiere Aftermath gives us a little more Saw Gerrera, and episodes 2, 4, 11, and 12 just help show the Empire's takeover of the galaxy, restriction of freedoms, and general state of the galaxy as we head into Andor. Episodes 11 and 12 specifically deal with the character Hera Syndulla, which is fitting because now we're going to jump ahead significantly in the timeline to talk about Star Wars Rebels. Everything I've recommended so far takes place before or very shortly after the events of Revenge of the Sith. The 4 seasons of Star Wars Rebels span the same time period as the entire Andor series eventually will, beginning 5 years before Rogue One and then leading us into that film. All of Star Wars Rebels is worth watching, especially if you want more exploration of the Inquisitors from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but I'm going to jump way into Season 3, Episodes 12 and 13, Ghosts of Geonosis, which takes place about 3 years after Andor Season 1. This is another Saw Gerrera story, seeing him team up with Hera Syndulla and the rest of her team to investigate some troubling rumors about the extermination of the Geonosian species. This is a point in time where Saw is still more closely allied with the various rebel cells of the galaxy, but we can also see him going further and further down the path of military extremism. Star Wars Rebels Season 3 Episode 18 shows us the opposite side of that spectrum with an episode about Mon Mothma, who is still voiced by Genevieve O'Reilly. This episode is hugely important to the Rebel Alliance and actually shows Mon Mothma publicly condemning Palpatine and going on the run for her supposedly treasonous remarks. Hera and her crew help deliver her safely to Dantooine, where Mothma transmits a message across the galaxy urging citizens to stand up and fight against oppression. Several ships join their cause, and this episode is considered to show the true start of the Rebel Alliance rather than several independent scattered cells. This is the Mon Mothma we will be building towards in Andor, and we may even see some of those events again in Season 2 of the series. My last Star Wars Rebels recommendation is Season 4, Episodes 3 and 4, titled In the Name of the Rebellion. As we grow closer to the time of Rogue One, tensions rise between Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma, and this episode gets to the heart of their differences. That it's not only important to fight for what's right, it's also important how you choose to fight. The young Ezra Bridger finds himself caught between the philosophies of two rebel leaders, and I think Andor might find himself in a similar position in his own series. We know from Rogue One that he has done terrible things in service of the Rebel Alliance. I think we will see him wrestle with knowing how far is too far in the fight against oppression. Mon Mothma could wind up being like the angel on his shoulder, while Saw or maybe Luthen could represent the darker side of the fight, pulling him in that direction. These two episodes of Star Wars Rebels explore some similar territory. That's everything on my watch list. Unless you haven't seen Rogue One or A New Hope, you should definitely watch those too, but if you haven't seen those, how did you even find your way here? Stop watching me and go watch Star Wars. But if you've never watched anything from the animated side of Star Wars, I think all those episodes will enhance your Andor experience, and hopefully you'll enjoy what you see and want to give a full series a try. The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Bad Batch, they're all great. But now, if you're still looking for more stories to dive into before Andor, I've got a few book recommendations. Rebel Rising by Beth Revis is about Jyn Erso and her life growing up with Saw Gerrera. We've done a lot of talking about Saw's militancy. We see it a bit in Rogue One. I would say it's more hinted at in the animated series. But if you really want to know how far the man is willing to go, there is a scene in this book that made my jaw drop, with its violence and ruthlessness. I understand the character, but Rebel Rising made it harder to root for him as one of the good guys, which was the point. And I hope Andor does something similar. I think there should be scenes where Saw makes the audience feel uncomfortable viewing him as good by default just because he's part of the rebellion. Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray takes place about 2 years after the events of Andor Season 1, and gives us another glimpse at what Mon Mothma and Bail Organa's rebel cell looked like at that point. Obviously, it's more focused on Leia, but man, it has some good, tense scenes with Mothma, Bail, and Breha Organa. Bail appearing in Andor almost seems like a given at this point, but Leia and Breha are also possibilities. And finally, I'll recommend Catalyst by James Luceno. It's a tie-in novel with Rogue One, primarily about Galen Erso and Orson Krennic, but it's another intriguing look at how the Empire lies to and manipulates its citizens and even its most loyal members into achieving its goals. And that's everything I recommend watching or reading before seeing Andor. If you're looking for some Star Wars stories to fill the time, I hope this helps. If there's another story you think would be a good addition, leave it in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for all our Andor coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.